What's going on? It's Ash here coming at you today in Raid Shadow Legends. Welcome to the video, guys. How are you all doing? Today we're going to talk about really one of the most interesting things in the game in terms of the most compelling things that makes me want to invest in a new champion, and that is a really cool passive. Passive skills obviously are skills that you don't actually use in the battle, right? They just happen automatically. They don't affect the other skills that can be put on cooldown and kind of selected and used as, you fight. Passives are awesome, and over the last couple years, really some of the most intriguing, compelling champions they've added to the game, it's been because they have really cool passives. So a lot of new champions on today's list as well. I have 35, count them, 35 passives, and I still have that weird feeling that I'm forgetting like 10 champions here that have really cool passives. You guys can let me know in the comments who I forget on my list. Today we're going to go over just the passives of these champions, so hopefully we can get through 35 champions in less than 2 hours. Starting with Yumeko. Yumeko is a brand new champion added to the game. She's incredibly good, and she also has a pretty cool passive. A perfect veil on this champion for 2 turns at the start of each round. But even better, this champion is immune to all debuffs if they are under a Veil or Perfect Veil buff. She also has a chance at stealing Veils or Perfect Veils, 75% chance of stealing the buff when Karato, Fox Hunter, the fusion champion, is on the same team. But forget that second part of it with Karato. Even the first part is very, very cool. We get damage mitigation, she's untargetable, and she's immune to debuffs. Very, very cool champion overall. Let's kick it old school here, guys, with Hegemon. Hegemon has one of the OG passives in the game, and it's so simple. Always goes first each round. There you go. It's what makes him so amazing with this crippling cold AoE, placing block active skills in the arena. It wouldn't be that special without that passive that he's automatically going first, no matter how slow or fast he is. You can even kind of turn him into a nuker with this ability and kill everybody in the arena before they even get a turn to go. So Hegemon definitely, again, one of the old school passive passive beasts in the game.
Why are we still here?
Next up is going to be none other than Lady Kimmy. Lady Kimmy, very cool passive. Whenever this champion places a debuff on an enemy, also decreases that enemy's turn meter by 5% for each debuff placed. That's really cool. Whenever the champion or an ally receive a debuff, fills their turn meter by 5% for each debuff received. So we get turn meter on our side every single debuff we receive, which can be a lot, especially now throughout the course of a battle. There's a lot of great debuffers in Doom Tower all over the game, right? But even with the debuff on each enemy, it has built-in turn meter when we're placing these block buffs or decrease accuracy, decrease speed in her kit. So we have turn meter control all over the place. Just an incredible passive, an incredible champion overall. Next up, we have Calvalax.
Hey.
Not Hegemon, Ash. Calvalax. Now this is a passive, man. Are you kidding me? Places 4 poison debuffs on all enemies for 2 turns at the start of each round. Has a 50% chance of placing a poison debuff on all enemies for 1 turn at the start of each turn? What? Whenever an enemy replaces a poison debuff on this champion, instantly removes it and instead replaces it with continuous heal. Now that, God, Pestilence must be, this is insane, right? Like, this is one of the coolest passives, most powerful passives ever added to the game, in my opinion. Speaking of kind of new passives added to the game, let's talk about Shoutouts. Shoutouts is a champion that I just pulled, just built him. Expect a guide probably pretty soon here coming on the channel. Instantly attacks enemies with the default skill whenever they receive damage from a poison debuff placed by this champion. When hitting enemies under poison, heals the champion by 10% of the damage inflicted. So we get a little lifesteal built in, and the instant attack on the A1, chance of putting them to sleep too on the A1, kind of cool to have. And then he has poisons in his kit as well. So obviously, we need that to activate that passive, excuse me. So Chagger, very, very cool new passive added to the game. Speaking of new champions here, guys, again, Basata. Kind of new. Doom Tower hard champion. Very unique passive. Whenever an enemy is revived, 100% when booked of placing a stun debuff on them for 1 turn. Can't be resisted or blocked. So awesome. You got a great reviver, boom, stunned. Pretty cool and unique passive to kind of mitigate the strength of revive in this game, which is really, really strong. Let's kick it old school for a second here on Bad El Khazar. The BEK killer, 20% more damage inflicted against targets under poison debuffs. Obviously has poison in his kit as well, but either way, that's a lot of extra damage. It adds up a lot, man. Throughout the duration of the fight, anybody, especially against bosses, right? Because it's a clan boss, man. That's a lot of extra damage. Battle Khazar, definitely a way to really boost your overall damage. In that vein, we have Gurgtuk. Forgot for 2 seconds what faction Gurgtuk was.
I suffer from short-term memory loss.
He has another damage increasing passive, right? He's placing poison on your allies, on your team, and then they're dealing 7.5% more damage for each poison debuff on them. So an extra 30% damage. That, again, is the reason why you're seeing Gurgtuk Mossbeard in some of the fastest speed comps inside the entire game, kind of like Calvalax, right? A very, very strong, well, not his passive is not like Calvalax, but these are the speed run gods of the game right now, especially end game. That can add up to a lot of extra damage, again, compounded by all the champions receiving that extra damage boost from the passive. Next up is going to be, oh man, just one of the best champions in the game. The best champion in the game is Krisk the Ageless. At the start of each round, plays a shield buff on all allies equal to 50% of his max HP. Okay, that's a big shield to start every round. Also, it gets better. 100% chance when booked to placing decreased defense and decreased attack on the attacker for 1 turn when hit. So he's got decreased attack and decreased defense in a great shield on his passive. Man, that's an insane ability, man. All right, next up is going to be a very unique one of my favorite passives in the game is Iron Braggos. He has increased the defense of all allies by 10% of this champion's defense. That's a massive defense boost, way more than increased defense buff on all of your allies. So you're just trying to build him with as much defense as possible, and his base defense is very high, almost 1,500. So Iron Braggos, certainly one of my favorite passives in the game. Let's go up with arguably maybe the best passive out there, Lydia, right? Man, oh man, oh man. She can deny revive attempts. What's better is she denies revives, and then she revives herself if she's dead, or your team if she's not dead instead. Very, very strong ability here on Lydia the Death Siren. The reward for clearing the faction wars, all faction wars, 3 stars. Next up is going to be a very, I don't want to say underrated passive, but a very strong one. I think anybody who knows Molly, you know this passive is insane. Rowdy Crowd. 1 turn cooldown when booked. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 15% when this champion is hit, and she has provoke. Okay. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 25% when this champion's hit by a boss. It's just like unlimited turn meter boost all over the place, all the time. Very, very, very good passive. Again, perhaps underrated a little bit. Next up is going to be Norad the Pig Man.
Does this suit make me look fat?
No. Your face does.
Really good damage mitigator overall. I love these damage mitigation passives. Very, very strong. It's like built-in like Guardian gear in some ways, right? Immune to or stalwart onto your allies in some ways. Immune to stun, freeze, sleep debuffs. Decrease the damage all allies receive that are under 1 or more buffs by 15%. If you're not under any buffs, 25% damage mitigation. That's incredibly strong. We're talking only Duchess has a 25% damage mitigator in her kit. That's really, really good. That's why he's still one of the underrated tanks in the game in Norad. Next up is going to be my girl. Come on down, Sil of the Drakes. Sil, you're looking good today, Sil. You're looking good today.
I broke up with you.
Oh. She heals all allies by 10% of their max HP at the start of each turn. Also, why not add more, right? You already got a great heal. No cooldown. Also plays a 30% increased speed on a random ally for 2 turns every single turn. Really, really great, solid passive on top of an already amazing kit, Sil. You know how much Sil, I mean, I always, play it up how much I love Sil the Drakes, but she really is a super special champion, a very, very good champion. If you have her, which I imagine most of you guys do, you know what I'm talking about. Speaking of champion I actually don't have, man, I want her. I want to rock. Removes 1 random debuff from all allies start of each turn, a la Doom Priest. Removes 2 instead. if they're under continuous heal. Very, very good passive there. Very unique, right? Only Doom Priest has a passive like this, and it can be, you know, it doesn't have the heal like Doom Priest does, but 2 random debuffs is really, really strong as a passive ability. Passives are just so strong in general because they're bringing something to the table on top of everything else they're doing. You know, she has increased defense, increased speed on a 3-turn cooldown. 2-turn cooldown would be pretty cool too, but all right, next up, we have Undead Horde. It's gonna be Siffy. Where are you, Siffy? There you are, right in front of my face. Heals each ally by 10% of their max HP at the start of their turn. Also has a 50% chance of removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn. Really, again, a solid addition to one of the stronger kits in the game already. That heal is just, it's nice. It's passive. It's just happening automatically, you know? You guys kind of get what passive means by now, right? I don't just keep saying it on every champion. Very, very strong passive there on Siffy. Next up is going to be one of the stronger ones in the game, Underpriest Brogni. Underpriest Brogni, whenever an ally under a shield buff is attacked, reflex 25% of that damage inflicted onto the shield back at the attacker. That can add up to some serious damage overall throughout the duration of longer fights. Also heals that ally by 25% of the damage inflicted on the shield. Why not? If there are multiple champions on the team, only one will activate. Okay, very, very cool passive for Brogni. Okay, let's go with some epics, man. This has been very legendary heavy so far. There's a lot of great epic passives, starting with, why not, where are you? Right in, okay, Achek the Wendran. Very, very unique passive. Heals all allies by 5% of their max HP every time an enemy under an HP burn debuff gets a turn. Fills a turn meter of all allies by 10% every time an enemy under freeze gets a turn. And he has them both on this A3 ability, either freeze or HP burn, depending on the attack and defense ratio of the opponent. So a very cool champion. I love running Achek the Wendran on Spider, right? With a burner like Mordecai or something. It's just insane, the synergy that you have with burners and freeze as well. Next up is going to be, well, speaking of the devil, Doom Priest. Doom Priest has the OG cleanser passive, right? Bolster. Heals all allies by 7.5% of their max HP and removes 1 random debuff from them at the start of this champion's turn. Very, very useful against Doom Tower, but just everywhere. Hydra, Doom Tower, anybody who's putting buffs on you, it's just a very, very solid champion to have. I have her in Relentless gear. That way she's doing it more often. I do the same thing with Tawana Rock. Same thing with a lot of these champions, a lot of these passives that have these abilities that, you know, every time they get a turn, something happens, like Still the Drakes, right? More heals. Vrask. Actually, might as well just do Vrask right now, right? Vrask. Man, I mean, the ultimate passive here. Where are you, Vrasky? Right in front of my face, right? Heals all allies by 10% of his max HP when he inflicts a critical hit. So again, Relentless, just going and going and going, 100% crit rate. You're looking pretty good here, unless you're going against Magic Fin, you land a weak hit. But man, he can be one of the most powerful healers in the game because of that passive, guys. Very, very, very good healer. Man, this could be the strongest epic passive in the game. It could be one of the strongest overall, and it's none other than Geomancer. Decreases the damage all allies receive by 15% and deflects that back onto each enemy under HP burn debuff placed by this champion. If there are multiple champions on the same team, only one will activate. Whenever this champion is attacked, deflects 30% of the damage instead. When deflecting damage on each enemy hit, has a 30% chance of dealing additional damage equal to 3% of the target's max HP. Whew! This ability can just deal an absolute ton of damage even after they played around with it. It doesn't matter. He's putting out, you know, 10+ million damage against Hydra Clan Boss for me on my Hydra Clan Boss teams. But Geo can just be an overall great burn synergy hit champion to have on your team. Next up is going to be Godseeker Aniri, man. Godseeker. Increase the amount of healing all allies receive by 10%. That's a great passive in and of itself. But really, the active effect here is every 4 turns, if an ally is about to get killed by a fatal hit, it preempts that hit and instantly places revive on death on them for 1 turn before the damage is taken. So it's a built-in revive, and she has another revive in her kit as well on a 4-turn cooldown. So really, you got 2 revives in this kit. Very, very cool because of the A3 and that passive. I really love Godseeker and Aniri. I love her. I'm gonna stop myself from going in depth on any of these champions.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
Let's talk about an old school epic here in Jareg. Jareg, a continuous heal buff on an ally for 1 turn whenever any ally loses 20% of their max HP on 1 hit. So 20% of their max HP is not an incredible threshold, an incredible bar to clear, right? So we're having a lot of heals throughout the duration, again, of a clan boss battle, for example, with this passive. I think Jareg is just such a tried and true, just reliable support champion to have on your team with the ally protect, increased defense, and that really great passive there. Just, healing those who need it. Jareg, since 2019. Next up is going to be, let me go over, I lied when I said the best passive was Geo. I think it might be Vogoth, guys. He has 2 OP passives. Whenever this champion is attacked, heals all allies by 50% of the damage received, 20%, 25% from boss attacks. Oh my word. And then on top of that, when attacked, places a leech debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. If the attacker is under provoke placed by this champion, which he has on his A2, has a 70%, make it 100 win booked of increasing the cooldown of a random skill on the attacker by 2 turns. Wow. These 2 passives are just insane. I recently had a Vogoth and curing set video. You guys can go ahead and YouTube search like Ash Vogoth. You'll see it. Just absolutely insane in the arena. Really, really fun to mess around with Vogoth. All right, next up is going to be, now we can go to the legendaries, guys. Let's go back to Contra the Cyclone. Very cool passive here, right? No escape. Decreases each enemy's accuracy by 10 for each debuff they are under. Look at all the debuffs. We're placing 3 of these every single time we AoE on this 3-turn cooldown, right? So she's bringing a lot of debuffs to the table. Heals this champion, will receive 4% less damage for each debuff on the attacker. Heals this champion by 1,250 HP each time a debuff expires on an enemy. Okay? And then has a 75% chance of placing a provoke if they're under 5 or more debuffs. And, oh, by the way, this champion can place debuffs on weak hits. So on this A3, again, we're going against Spirit Affinity. No worries. We can still place all of our debuffs. Don't have to have a critical hit. Don't have to have a strong hit. It doesn't matter. We're still placing those debuffs. Very, very cool. An underrated passive, in my opinion. I think that Contra the Cyclone, just my opinion, is an overall underrated champion in the game. Next up is going to be Tormund. Still one of the best passives out there, especially in the arena. We're placing 30% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the enemy each time they receive a buff or have their turn meter filled. Applies up to twice per enemy, per turn. I mean, you guys can read the passive. All you know is he's annoying in the arena, freezing everybody, and everywhere else too. He's an overall just a beast everywhere in the game, in my opinion, at least. Defense in all battles by 33%. The best all battle defensive aura in the game, if I'm not mistaken. So overall, Tormund, I don't know what I'm talking about his aura, but overall, Tormund's just an absolute beast, and that's a very cool passive, unique passive, annoying passive as well. Let's talk about another one of the best passives out there, and it's on Valkyrie. People think of Valkyrie, they think of her OP shield on her A2, her counterattack, but really this champion's jealousy passive is insane too. Turn meter will be increased by 10% each time an enemy champion places a buff. Okay, enemy champions will have their turn meter decreased by 10% for each buff they receive. So powerful, especially in the arena, but really everywhere. Any enemy that's susceptible to turn meter depletion control, this jealousy is really, really strong. And again, kind of an overlooked part of Valkyrie's kit by some players. Not my viewers. You guys are smart. You guys know how powerful that is. All right, Taragi the Frog. The Frog Man. I like his passive. When it's simple but effective, deals a lot of damage. When attacked, has a coin flip 50-50 shot at placing a big version of poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. Occurs once per hit. There it is, right? An already good hit, but having that poison on the passives, man, I am a big fan. We'll talk about that more in just a minute or two. Next up is going to be going back to, I'm all over the place here, going back to legendary Drexstar Blood Twin. Come on. 55% chance, make it a 75% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns on the attacker. When hit, this champion's resistance increases by 10%, for every enemy under HP burn debuff stacks to up to 50. So the second part is cool to have, but really this is what makes him one of the best, boss damage dealers or even solo, boss champions for Doom Tower specifically. I use Rexstar against, gosh, maybe 4 of the Doom Tower bosses, maybe more. Very, very good champion. Put him in lifesteal. He can basically heal himself between the heal and the A1 and the rest of the damage he puts out. Big fan of that passive on Rexstar Blood Twin. Next up is going to be kind of an old school Void here in Gurgle the Auger. Very cool champion. It's a 50% chance, kind of like Rexstar, but instead of HP burn is freeze. 50% chance of placing a freeze debuff on the attacker for 1 turn if this champion loses more than 20% of his max HP in 1 attack. And he has kind of low HP, 16k, so oftentimes he is losing more than 20%, especially in the arena. So basically, once he's attacked by an AoE champion in the arena, you're putting their nuker or whomever basically in a freeze, right? Or 50-50 shot, putting them in a freeze. So I think that's a unique and fun passive from Gurgle the Auger. He also has a guaranteed freeze in his kit, 100% freeze with an extra turn. So overall, one of the best freeze champions in the game. Next up is going to be, I don't know if I could have or should have included her on the kit or on the list, excuse me, but she has one of the coolest kits in the game, and that is Little Miss Annie. Little Miss Annie, when revived, she gets revenge. She attacks the enemy that killed the champion with the default skill. Also, fills her turn meter by 25%, places a shield on her, equal to 50% of their max HP for 2 turns as well. So you revive her, and immediately she comes back with a very hard-hitting 3-time hitter on her A1. Usually just will auto-kill whoever kills her in the arena. So very, very cool passive. Her second passive, another 2 passive champion, each has a 50% chance of decreasing the target's turn meter by 5% and a 100% chance of decreasing the target's max HP by 5% of the damage inflicted when attacking enemies under heal reduction. So again, not as good as the first passive, but very unique and very cool overall. Hey, we're here. Let's just go right down the line, right? Erosa Soul Cage. Man. When attacked, 50% chance, 75 when booked, of placing a poison debuff on the attacker for 2 turns. You guys can read the rest here, but essentially, it's like the Frogman, Taragi the Frog, only way better, right? Higher chance of poison. We also have decreased enemy max HP, good against the Scarab King, can solo the Scarab King. Ursa Soul Cage is Doom Tower hard Secret Room champion, and a very, very good one at that. I remember originally, I kind of underrated him. I was like, pretty cool kit, pretty cool. But boy, because of this passive, incredibly cool kit, right? Necron the Great, another 2 passive champion, guys. Whenever an ally is attacked while under ally protect, placed by this champion, place a shield on them. Also decreases the cooldown of the Legion of the Damned skill. So Legion of the Damned is his A2, which is an ally attack ability, right? Which grants another extra turn if no enemies are killed during that attack. So you can see it's kind of like a snowball effect in this champion's kit, right? But really, the super cool passive is Arise, my minions. Plays a block debuff and a 25% strengthen buff for 3 turns on the ally with the lowest max HP at the start of each round. Also, ally protection for 6 turns that cannot be removed. Really insane for the arena. Think about it, guys. At the start of each round, like before anybody goes, right? Before Hegemon attacks, it doesn't matter, right? Is placing a block debuffs and strengthen and ally protect on a lot of the times your nuker, your squishiest champion on your team, right? So very, very fun champion. Incredibly powerful passive as well. Hey, since we're here, I think that Harvest Jack has a pretty cool passive. He's not on my list, but it's pretty cool. When attacked, decreases the duration of all buffs on the attacker by 1 turn. Pretty cool, right? It's simple, but it's cool. All right, not on our list, by the way, guys. I wanted to give a couple more honorable mentions here, but like Genbo passive, immune to decreased attack, will ignore unkillable buffs. Very cool, but kind of a more niche passive compared to a lot of the other these champions. Skull Crown. Obviously, I mean, I'll just include her on the list. Who cares? 36 champions or whatever. But she has the unkillable buff on this champion for 1 turn every time their HP drops below 20%. Leo, same kind of thing. These, to me, are kind of arena specialists, especially. They're nice to have anywhere, but instantly place an unkillable buff on the champion for 1 turn before receiving a fatal hit, excuse me. So I think these abilities are a little bit more niche, but still very, very cool to have, especially on squishier nukers, squishier champions overall. Okay, next up on the list is going to be, we only have a few left here, guys. We only have 2 left. Oh my God, this video has gone by pretty fast,
Who are you?
Nogdar, man, you know I had to include him, guys. I love this champion. Revives his champion 50% HP and 50% turn meter when killed. if all other allies are alive. So he's squishy, 12k HP, 1k defense. Okay, that's very, very squishy. The good news is it doesn't matter. You put him in he's doing damage to himself all the time. Like all of his abilities, he's sacrificing HP. Put him in a frenzy set. You're getting turn meter. He's dying all the time. He's reviving himself with 50% HP, goes right, 50% turn meter again, goes right back into the battle. Extra turns off of this A1. What is it? Grants an extra turn if it kills an enemy. So like he can be like the Energizer Bunny champion, right? And it's because of this passive too. If he dies, it doesn't matter. It's almost cool if he dies.
The less you do, the more you do.
Because he has 50% turn meters right back in the fight, right? So just put him with a tanky team around him and a reviver, or you don't even need a reviver, excuse me. You don't need a reviver. He revives himself, and you're looking pretty good. Very unique and cool passive, I think, in the game. And last up, guys, last up on the list, and again, I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but Coronage. Coronage is just one of those cool passives because it's just so synergistic with the rest of his kit, right? So it plays an increased defense on all allies for 2 turns if he ever kills an enemy, which is cool, but not the reason he's on the list. It's this one. Counterattacks when hit by enemies under decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed. Now he has decreased defense and decreased attack in his kit. So usually, you know, you have another champion on the team as well. But that counterattack leads him into an A1, which is an AoE attack with turn meter depletion as well, right? So very, very cool. Constant turn meter manipulation and depletion by this champion. A very good and underrated control champion in Coronage. So guys, that's going to do it. That is the list of my favorite 36, I think, passives in the game. You know, if you include the rest of them, maybe close to 40. Who did I leave off the list? Again, I feel like I'm forgetting somebody who has a really nasty passive. Overall, there's like 70 champions or 100 champions with passives, so I know I'm leaving a lot out. Is there any rare that should have been on the list? I didn't include any of them, but I didn't really think that anybody had a passive that was worth including, obviously. Maybe like Coffin Smasher or Night Revenant, like 5% damage mitigation. Maybe Tanix Hate Flower with another 5% damage mitigation. Trying to think of other champions, but that's really all that came to mind. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. I appreciate you guys, and as always, take care, guys.